Hey everyone, this is Chris of Innovative Enterprises, and today's topic is, are you willing to work yourself to death? Now, that's a statement that a lot of people can relate to, but a lot of people don't want to admit is true for them. Why? Not sure. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But truthfully, are you willing to work yourself to death? Okay, because working for any employer by default means that from the age of 18 when you start, typically that's when people start working, right? Sometimes before then, but most people start working at 18, okay? To when they die, most people are working from 18 till they die, right? Think about it. The people who say they're going to retire at 65-ish end up going back to work until they die, right? Some people literally work themselves to death. They're 50, 60 something years old. They've worked for 30 straight years in a particular employment that has hardships in regards to heat, working outside, weight, stuff that they have to lift over and over again, and their bodies can't take it. They break down. Eventually, their hearts give out. They die working. Or stress because they have to get those numbers. They have to, you know, make those sales. They end up having a heart attack and die. Now, again, a lot of people watching this right now, they might turn me off already because they don't want to think about it because they're about to go back to work on Monday thinking about that. Do you know on Mondays in the United States is the highest rate of heart attacks in our nation? Just thinking about going to work on Monday or working on Monday. Is that any way to live? I don't think so. The whole purpose of this particular video is to point these things out and to hear them out loud. You have to say it. Am I willing to work myself to death for somebody else? Now, if you work yourself to death for yourself, hey, that's different. Because for yourself, you have different goals, especially if you're not being selfish, especially if you have children. If you're working for yourself, okay, working for yourself by definition right off the bat means you can't get fired. So you never have that apprehension weighing over your head, right? Working for yourself gives you full opportunity to prove that you can do whatever it is you think you can do better than anybody else, that you can do it on your own terms, your own schedule, right? But let's not get to that point just yet. Are you willing to work yourself to death? What are you doing right now in life, whatever your employment is? Can you see yourself working there for another 10 years, another 30 years, 50 years? There's some people who've been working 50 years of their lives, working hard too. There's nothing wrong with working hard. Don't get me wrong, of course. But are you willing to die for it? There's not too many things that an individual is going to be willing to die for. Their spouse, their kids, parents, but a job? I don't. If you're in the military, that comes with the territory, right? Law enforcement, you have to have that in you somewhat, right? Security of politicians or famous people, kind of have to be able to take a bullet, I guess, right? But for a job, job, I don't think so. I don't think most typical individuals out there are willing to just work themselves to death. Okay, now here's a scenario, of course. If you're making all the money in the world and you have all the time in the world at your job, maybe you would. Maybe if you have the perfect situation, you get to leave when you want to, you get vacation anytime you ask for it, you get a raise every time you ask for it, you get a promotion every time you ask for it. Perfect scenario, you'll stay at that job forever, right? But how many people actually have had that perfect scenario? If all of us have had a perfect scenario, we would all be at the first job we ever applied for, right? Because there would never be any reason to leave that job, right? At 18 years old, when I graduated from high school, um, there was a particular position that I applied for at a payment processing company. And I ended up getting the job is mostly because, yes, there was someone in the inside that knew me and was able to at least get me in front of the person who I needed to interview with. And I had 3 different interviews, and I ended up getting the job. Now, just because that person knew me didn't mean I was going to get that job. I still had to interview. And even after getting the job, I still had to prove that I was worth keeping. Just because someone knew me, I didn't get that job because someone knew me. You understand that, right? And in getting that first job, I thought I was really going to work there forever. Literally, I thought I was going to work for that same company for years to come. I was there for 4 years. That was my first job. And the reason we weren't there, well, I shouldn't say we, most of us aren't there anymore. It's because 4 years in, all of a sudden, the company decided to make some changes and move. Laid everybody off. Gave us severance packages and gave us the option to move to New Jersey. I was 1 year away from being vested, 1 year away from stock options and the whole 9 yards. I would have been 5 years in with that company. Didn't work out. Are you willing to work yourselves to death for situations like that to happen on a regular basis? Okay. Now, let me get to some nitty gritty stuff because that's why I want to talk about this part now, since I mentioned that one company years ago. In the last 2 years, here are some known companies that you know of that have either laid off people or closed its doors forever. CNN, Target. Target closed 11 stores in the United States and all of them in Canada. Coca-Cola cut 1,800 jobs. Walgreens closed 200 stores to save money so they can buy Rite Aid. Walmart shut down 5 stores because of plumbing issues for 6 months, laid off everybody at those stores, gave them 2 months severance, and then said their jobs are not guaranteed when the stores reopen. McDonald's is closing 700 stores this year. Last year, Radio Shack closed all of its stores. They're out of business. JP Morgan is laying off 5,000 people to save money. Macy's is closing 40 stores. Verizon, possible 5,000 to 6,000 layoffs. Bank of America, there's a branch in Charlotte laying off 100 people right now. General Motors, 500 jobs at the Metro Detroit plant, gone. ESPN, 350 jobs. Chevron, you ever heard of Chevron before? Chevron is cutting 7,000 jobs because their profits have fell to $2 billion. Now, that doesn't sound that good to me. And some of those companies I used to work for, Radio Shack, Coca-Cola, laying off people left and right. Do you know there's a website that keeps you up to date with all layoffs, all bankruptcies of companies out there? That's not good either, right? But there are people out there that are willing to work themselves to death for these companies, feeling that their job is guaranteed. And you can't tell them otherwise. They got the job, they will keep that job forever until they get laid off, and then get rehired, and then laid off, and then permanently fired. What happens when a person gets laid off or fired? Bad things usually happen because most people are not prepared. Most people don't have enough money in the bank and all that. When the recession first hit, the numbers are there. If people had an extra $250 coming in, a lot of people wouldn't have lost their houses, but a lot of people did because they didn't have that extra $250. That check was everything. They got their check, they paid their bills, and they were working for another 2 weeks for free until they got the next check. And most people are content to live like that. And there might not be nothing wrong with that, except most people have kids. And kids are going to do that too. And their kids are going to do that too. Now, what's the point 10 minutes into this video? If you're not willing to work yourselves to death for those scenarios that I've just mentioned, what are you willing to do to change it? Can I recommend something? Own your own business. Create something on your own. So that way you have a backup plan to if the worst case scenario happens and you get fired from a job and all your income was tied up in that one company, your mortgage, your car note, everything, before you end up on the street because your bills still have to be paid even if you don't have any income, why don't you create something to where you have money coming in? The typical American barely has $500 in a bank account somewhere. Barely. And these are people who've been making $60,000, $70,000 for 10 years or more. That's $700,000. What did I just say? Yeah. If a person has been making $50,000 for 10 years, a year, that's 500, that's half a million. And people don't have anything to show for it because of bills, right? At a certain point, you have to want more than that. You can't be content and satisfied and okay and good with barely scraping by. I had a friend a few months ago this summer tell me that he alone makes $70,000 a year. And I don't know how much his wife makes, but they both work and they live in an apartment. And he's like, they're barely making it. I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, what kind of apartment are you living in? And this is not Atlanta, Georgia that we're talking about. This is not LA, New York, or anything. It's a small city south of Atlanta we're talking about. He's like, he's barely making it, barely getting by all of his bills and things of this nature, school, what is it called? School loans and, excuse me, things of that nature, car notes, barely making it. That's crazy. So, what can you do to prevent just getting by or potentially losing everything because of something that'll have nothing to do with you? What can you do? And before I get into that, again, having something happen that'll have nothing to do with you, doesn't that leave a bad taste in your mouth just to even think about it? Again, people are getting laid off because other people want to save money. Other people want to make their company more profitable. It's their company. They have a right to do that, right? A job is not to make you rich, wealthy, or okay. It's to be profitable. It's to make money. You are there only to help them make money. And as soon as they can figure out a way to not have you there and have something happen while you're not there, they'll figure it out and they do it. The reason people have jobs is because no one has figured out how to do your job without you being there in an inexpensive way. It's expensive to replace you. I know. I used to be a recruiter. Okay. So at the end of the day, what are you willing to do to give yourself a backup plan to where if the worst case scenario happens? I mentioned create a business. Okay. Or you have to create a stream of income that is basically untouchable. I'm not talking about Grand Cayman Island, Swiss bank account, James Bond kind of untouchable. I mean, that income isn't affected if you are not working for someone else. It's your money, right? To be able to do that, you have to be able to create something. So, have you ever tried to do that before? What is it that you can do better than anybody else that you feel that you can actually create income out of? Have you ever thought of it before? Okay. If not, you should start. Like, seriously, you should start. It's not that hard to start a business these days. The government of the United States has made it very easy for you to do that. They would love for you to do that. Our economy is based off of businesses being created. A guy in Atlanta told us in a group session or whatnot that in Atlanta alone, over 90% of the businesses in Atlanta have between 1 and 15 employees. 90%. That's called a small business. So if 90% of the companies in Atlanta are there, and making money, well, what is your excuse then? Have you even tried? 15 minutes into this video. My company is Innovative Enterprises, and one of the things that my company specializes in is helping people start from scratch their own business. Everything from the business name to business permits to business license to business plans, proposals, logistics, marketing, advertising, websites, the whole 9 yards, everything. Whatever your budget is, whatever your non-existent budget might be, you can start a business if you want to, doing something that you believe you can do better than anybody else, or finding something that already exists and you feel that you can make it better, which means you're going to invest in something to be able to create income that is untouchable from a position of, weakness, stuff out of your control. What do you prefer? Do you have to get laid off and fired before you do anything? Do you have to lose your house before you do anything? Do you have to lose both cars before you do anything? Do you have to have your kids go hungry for a week before you do anything? There's a guy who's 55 years old, Caucasian male, out in San Francisco, California, has an MBA degree from Stanford University. He's homeless. He's been homeless for 9 months. Well, 10 months now. It's October. Well, almost November. So I guess almost 11 months now. Homeless. MBA. And these people were interviewing him, and they were like, how did this happen? And he was like, we're all just one check away. One check. So this guy who has an MBA degree from Stanford in San Francisco probably was making maybe $100,000 or more a year, possibly, but he was living way out of his means to be one check away, do you think? Or something drastic happened. Maybe he had alimony. I don't know the situation, but one check not being there caused him to lose everything, spiral to where he's homeless, and then homeless for almost a year. 55 years old, Caucasian man. That ain't no way to put yourself in that position. So, with a few minutes left, if you're watching this video, if you watched it all the way up to here, and you've been thinking about it, you heard those companies that are laying off people and have laid off people, you might work at some of those companies. You might know some people that work at some of those companies that I mentioned. Isn't it worth it for all of you to start thinking about something that you can do on the side? Yes, you're going to sacrifice some TV time. Oh, well. You're going to sacrifice some golf or basketball, whatever it is that you like doing regularly, to take some time to do something a little bit extra for yourself to ensure that you'll be in a good position in case something crazy happens. It's going to take some time, but what else are you going to do with your time? There's 168 hours in a week. Are you working all of them? And if you are, that's a problem, right? Innovative Enterprises. If you go to innovativeenterprises.com, that's one E in the middle, by the way, and take a look at everything that I have available for a business owner, you should take advantage of it. You can also call it 305-204-1826. That's innovativeenterprises.com. That's one E. Okay? Or you can call 305-204-1826 and see what I might be able to do to help you launch a business of any kind. Doesn't matter. Okay? And hopefully you'll share this video. Hopefully you'll talk to some people, you'll talk to your family, you'll talk to your spouse, you talk to your kids and say, hey, you know what? We need to start a business. Because everybody's doing it. It's the new thing, right? Unless you just kind of want to work yourself to death. So that being said, this is the end of this video. Hopefully you'll share my videos here on YouTube. I have a whole bunch of them. I'm going to start catching up again. I've been really busy with a lot of stuff. I have to I have to do another video for that. But tonight, again, do you want to work yourself to death? And if not, what are you willing to do to avoid it? Please share this video. Again, innovativeenterprises.com. That's one E in the middle for the website. And you can call 305-204-1826 if you have questions. And if you'd like to find out more about my company and how I might be able to help you start your business. Till then, y'all have a great weekend, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.